So, what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Today, I want to talk to you about why I cannot put down and stop using the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Now, I've had this phone since launch day, so it is about 3 months old, just about here already. And a lot of people are probably just picking this up now for the holiday seasons. But I'm going to start with the very first one, and that has been the Cosmic Orange colorway. So this color, while it's not for everyone, and I kind of knew that when I first seen it, it wasn't going to be for everyone. I didn't know if I was honestly going to get it at first. As a matter of fact, the classic color I was going to choose is the phone I'm filming this video with, the iPhone 17 Pro, as you can see right there. But over time, I've come to really enjoy this color. It does remind me a bit of the color you'll see on the side of like an Apple Watch here. You see the orange on there and over here on the Apple Watch Ultra specifically. But what it really does is it just kind of stands out more versus the other iPhones that have been launching over the past several years. It's just a little bit more zingy. So, and I do feel like Apple could just take the design process they did with this to make this anodized aluminum to be like a red or maybe even a purple or maybe even a dark green or a lighter green for the Pro Max. I just want to see more colors in the Pro Max and Pro line. Let me know if you agree with that down below. But if we take a look at some of the competitors over the past year that I picked up, and I understand I got a little bit more of a dull color here. A lot of people do love the jet black here of the S25 Ultra. And this is not to say anything about Samsung because they do have other color options. I just went with this one. I'm just saying personally, I've been making the choice to go a little bit more simple colors, like my S25 Edge being just a simple silver. I mean, nice phones, don't get me wrong, but they just don't stand out like the color of the 17 Pro Max. But then when I look at even other phones like the iPhone 17, which I do love in this sage color, it is really nice. It still doesn't stand out like the Cosmic Orange. This is one of the most standout looking phones I've seen. And I don't say that from a status perspective. Like, I don't buy this to be like, look at me, look at my phone. I just like personally, when I look at it, and I'm like, this just looks kind of cool. It's just different versus before. So it kind of makes the phone feel a little bit more fresh over time, which is one of the reasons why I have enjoyed using it. It also tends to go pretty well with some case options. So let me show you some of the cases that I've been using. And of course, I will link them down below. I don't have, a green case. So for those of you looking for that Halo edition effect, you can go ahead and get yourself a green case. But I've been using this. It's starting to get a little bit dirty now, but I've been using the Tech Woven case. Goes in there pretty grippy on the phone overall. Definitely can show a little bit of wear over time, but some people like that little bit of wear over time. Then I also went ahead and got myself one of these cases as well. Let me go ahead and showcase to you just a simple MagSafe clear case. You got to have a TPU with the MagSafe. And one of the things I don't like about this device though is that the Apple logo is a little bit lower than center. So that's just something I'm not a big fan of, but you got to have that one in the rotation. In addition to that, I also do have a very zingy orange to match this Cosmic Orange. And this case is pretty neat because I can go ahead and use this area for a kickstand, or you can kind of prop it up like this right here. So you can go ahead and do that. And then it kind of matches up really nicely. So I think these orange cases go very well with the device camera control cutouts right there. But you can see over time, you could see a little bit of dirtiness on there. These orange cases are a lighter color, so they tend to show a little bit of dirt as well. Of course, you're always going to want to go with a black case for something like that. I also use this leather case. It does have MagSafe, like what Apple's leather case would have looked like if they brought a leather case. So I'll leave a link to all these cases down below. These are the ones I've been rotating recently with my iPhone 17 Pro Max. So the next one has been the battery life. Now, we've heard this time and time again, and it could sound like a broken record player saying it over and over again. But one of the reasons I just can't put this down is because I don't ever run out of battery. It's an honest truth about this phone. You just can't make this thing go to zero unless you're just ridiculous on your phone all day and you just never ever stop using your phone. I mean, I'm sure the heaviest of users out there could definitely drain this thing down to zero, but I just got to say, that thickness is a trade-off for that battery, and I think it's well worth it for those power users out there. This phone truly does go the distance, and it goes a little bit more than what you would expect. So I definitely tend to prefer the iPhone 17 Pro Max out of iPhones for battery life. It's literally like the iPhone 13 Pro Max reincarnated. You know how the 13 Pro Max was such a beast in battery? That's this one again. Also, the USB C right there is incredibly decent for charging. It's not the fastest out there. Some of the OnePlus phones charge way faster than this device, but it still does charge relatively quick by comparison to some of the older iPhones if you're coming from an older product. Next reason I can't put this down is when you combine the battery life, the nice looking color, which makes it feel a little bit fresher than before, Apple's consistency with these software updates, and I find the Apple Watch Ultra to go really nicely with this, along with the ecosystem being pretty frictionless once you have everything set up. I found that this is just a very reliable experience. And if you look at the rest of the ecosystem lately, the Apple Watch Ultra, like I just showed you, this is a 3. This is the Apple Watch Ultra 3. Super good battery life on that for what it is. And then you do have yourself incredibly fast MacBooks, incredibly quick iPads now. It doesn't matter really which one you go with. Everything is fast and frictionless once you have everything synced up. And it's always kind of been that way for Apple, but it's kind of better now because it's so much faster now. The devices are just ridiculous speed with these M series chips, the A19 Pro chip, 12 gigs of RAM. The M series MacBooks are out of this world in performance. So they've taken what was already a good ecosystem with switching between pretty seamlessly and just they're just making it like blazing quick now. And so what that does is in your everyday life and the real world experience, there's just really low friction when you're going ahead and airdropping things. And you'll even see competitors starting to bring out share with iPhone, these like airdrop like tweaks they're trying to do. Like I think the Google Pixel was doing that just a couple of weeks ago. So you can tell that this is still something that the competitors are trying to emulate to this day is to have a frictionless experience. It really does help out your day-to-day real world life experience when you can just hop between different devices and you can actually have multiple Apple Watches set up to this thing, multiple AirPods, AirPods Max, AirPods Pro, you name it. Everything can just be really flowing with you and it kind of goes into the background of your life. And when a phone goes into the background of your life, then it's kind of like going to be probably a really good option for you. One of the things about this phone I really like is that it's one of the largest displays, but it's also wide. So it's a 19:9 aspect ratio and it has very thin bezels, so 6.9 inches. So what that means, and this, what's cool about this device is that it's not that tall. Like it's tall, but it's not the tallest phone I've seen out there. So some phones can have like a 6.8 inch, but they'll actually be taller than the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So it kind of gives you, yes, it's not a thin and easy or like a super narrow phone. You can feel it. You can feel the size of this phone. But for those of you who are looking for that portable powerhouse, it really hits the sweet spot in doing that exact task. So it does what you really want it to do. It gives you a lot of space to read, a lot of space to watch content, a lot of space to frame your photos, a lot of space to message, you name it. Whatever you want to do, this display is really good at it. And not only that, the display quality itself is really good. This display gets incredibly bright outdoors specifically. I find in pretty much any location, it does really good. Also, what I really enjoy about this panel is they finally included a PWM upgrade. So if we go over here to display, you'll see right here, we're going to turn that on right there. You'll be able to get some PWM improvements. So what I mean by this is it's going to lower it a little bit. It's not going to be quite as much as before, but when we compare it to some of the competitors, they're still doing it a bit better, but still at least there's something on here which can make this actually a usable display for some people who have been avoiding iPhones because of this specific health reason. So let me know your thoughts on that. But I just enjoy the size of the panel, the brightness, the promotion. I don't like Dynamic Island being in the way. I've gotten used to it. I don't think about it too much, but I'd still like to see it go away. So if next year, if they bring an under display camera or whatever, I'm going to be extremely happy about that. Even if they get rid of Dynamic Island, I probably wouldn't miss it too much. I feel like they could even keep the features of it via some software instead of like putting this blotch on my screen. So that's the only issue I have with it. I also don't like how I can't split the screen, but it still hasn't stopped me from not being able to put this down because great battery life, great performance, seamless switching between products in the Apple ecosystem, and it doesn't really do anything in the hardware front bad. It does pretty much everything good. So we don't really have too much to say about that. Like you can say that you're not a big fan of design, but that's subjective. Technically, it's still a premium build. It's still going to be a long-lasting product, and it still has IP68, and it's still pretty durable. So that's not really a problem. It's just more, do you like or dislike the look of the phone? Next one is the superb performance. Now, it hasn't benchmarked the fastest, it hasn't been the fastest phone I've tested this year, but it's definitely one of the best at thermals. So you definitely are going to get a really strong score. There are 5 or 6% of devices out there that can score better than this. Some gaming phones, some higher tier Snapdragon devices, but this still gives you really good frame rates, really good overall consistency in the performance. And applications are updated extremely regularly. You still can find some applications on here you might not actually be able to find on some other phones. And so, generally, I do feel like this is going to be one of the best options out there if you want a strong performer that stays strong and consistent day in and day out. I still believe that Apple needs to improve their reliability when it comes to animations and the overall fluidity, as some competitors have been surpassing them now. I do find sometimes with iOS 26 that the animations can stutter a few times, and it's just a little weird because I'm not really used to that from Apple. Hold on, I got to put the passcode. I'm not really used to that from them, but at the same time, it doesn't happen that regularly, so it's not a major drawback. I just find sometimes, especially when first turning it on, that it can get a little bit slow until it warms up, if you will. But other than that, very fast performance, very reliable performance, and it really does make it hard to put this device down. It makes you not want to stop using it, if I'm being quite honest with you. The phone also feels smooth in the hands due to the rounded corners. It also makes for a little bit of a slipperier phone. You can see my little nick I got right there. I'm going to keep bringing that up because I did drop this due to it being a little bit more slippery. And I did have the case on it, by the way. One of the cases was on it. It just popped out of the case, still hit the cement. So make sure if you care a lot about drop protection, you get a thicker case, a case that has some true corner protection, because that's usually where phones get damaged first. But the overall, the aluminum actually still feels very smooth. Some people were worried about the coloring changing to like a rose gold look. You can see my phone still looks plenty orange, and it's been about 3 months already. So I'm not really too concerned about that as well. The rear cameras on here have been also incredibly reliable. A triple 48 megapixel camera has allowed for me to have the consistency that I remember on some older iPhones. So let me bring in this tech woven case here that's actually for the 17 Pro. But what's nice about this is I like the results on each lens. They all look pretty good. And one of the things I think Apple does really well is that they don't put on cameras just for the sake of it. Like they don't go extremely far on a zoom because the quality starts to become crap at a certain level anyway. So I feel like they do one of the best at keeping the ability to zoom up to where it's still going to look pretty good. So it actually does look pretty good all the way through this zoom range. And on the ultra wide, it's pretty smooth. And zooming between these cameras, besides jumping over to that 0.5, it does stay pretty smooth. Now they also do have quite a bit of pro modes and that front-facing camera on board. I've been talking about it on other iPhone 17s as well. Center stage has really been a game changer. I do expect to see other device makers bring something similar to that in the future, something ultra wide like that on their front-facing cameras, because Apple's has been quite nice. But it doesn't really matter what you're doing, whether you're doing Zoom photos, nature photos, family, friends, architecture, I don't care what it is, macros. This phone has got you covered. I mean, you could even do broadcast level stuff, and people probably wouldn't even notice too much of the difference. I mean, I'm recording this video on the same set of cameras with the iPhone 17 Pro, and some of you might even think this looks better than my videos with my main camera. So let me know your thoughts on that. But moving on to the next section, and that is the audio. This actually does have a pretty rich and loud audio experience coming out of these stereo speakers. It actually sounded better by a little bit over the 16 Pro Max, which is actually a good thing because the 16 Pro Max was also a very, very good sounding phone. So having an improvement there has been fun. Generally, it's a really good speakerphone for not only audio, but also for speakerphone itself. So that's one of the reasons I just have been really enjoying it as well. When I do want to play that, for those of you who don't really care about audio performance, you do have really fast Bluetooth connection speed, Wi-Fi connectivity speed, really solid phone call performance as well. So it doesn't really let you down in that department either. But I've actually enjoyed that this phone charges a little bit faster than before. It's been a little bit of a bottleneck for me before on some older iPhones. This one does charge relatively quick, so it doesn't tend to slow me down during my day. But the thermal improvements of this phone and the marketing is no joke. I don't care if I'm playing COD, I don't care if I'm playing PUBG. The device just doesn't get that warm. It does have really good heat dissipation. It's one of the benefits of going with the aluminum material versus sticking to titanium, which has been proven to be a little bit harder to dissipate the heat. So putting a vapor chamber in this device has been a really good idea for Apple, and I've really enjoyed it. I think for true power users, you're gonna really like this. But even if you're not a power user and you're buying the Max for other reasons, maybe the camera, you like the size of the display, nobody wants a phone that's burning their hands. So this is definitely the real deal. And the marketing is no joke. It really does live up to that hype. So iOS 26 took some getting used to, but liquid glass, I've come around and it definitely feels different. It feels like a fresh paint job on what a core experience has always been. iOS, looks pretty much the same, but with the fresh paint job of iOS 26 transparency effects, and some of the new features that came with the software. We don't have to go over that. It's not an iOS 26 video, but the point is that it's a fresh transparency paint job on top of iOS at the core, and it's been fun. It's been at first it was a little bit getting used to these different UI. It was a big overhaul, but now that I'm used to it, it kind of just feels like what it always has felt like: grid of icons, categorical icons in the app library. You also do have the same app store, and of course, they're always updating the look. But this going through here definitely feels a little bit different. The feature enhancements and camera look a little bit different. I'm not sure I like that I have to do that now, but at least it gives it a visual effect that looks a little bit different. The software has been enjoyable enough that I just don't want to stop using it. And the next one is 12 gigs of RAM. The device is incredibly nice when going through pretty much everything, and it doesn't really seem to hiccup at all when going back through the applications. 12 gigs of RAM will feel like an amazing upgrade for those of you who have an iPhone 12, any of those iPhones with a 4 gig of RAM, and you've been feeling it like reload stuff when you're just trying to hop between 4 apps at a time. This is going to be a game changer for you. So my final verdict on this video, why I can't put this phone down and why I don't think I'm going to stop using it probably until the next iPhone makes its appearance, or maybe even an iPhone Fold, is because it's a culmination of all the things I have mentioned in this video. This thing does pretty much most things right. And it's definitely going to go in probably in my awards video this year of my favorite phones of the year. But generally, it reminds me of things like the 6S Plus, the iPhone 11 Pro Max, the 13 Pro Max. And if you think about what all those phones had in common, I feel like the 17 Pro Max hits the same points. When the 6S Plus came out, it was an aluminum body. It also was better than the 6 Plus. It was better battery life, a little bit more refined, faster. This is kind of like the modern version of that. The 11 Pro Max, much better than the 10S Max, much better battery life, cameras, just did everything well. Skip forward a couple years later, the 13 Pro Max, another one. 13 Pro Max, iconic, legendary. We had the 14 Pro Max. There was some issues there. 15 Pro Max, titanium was nice. Phone got a little bit too warm. 16 Pro Max, pretty darn good, but felt too similar to the 15 Pro Max. 16 Pro Max now, fixing pretty much all issues of this kind of like design here. So it's a thumbs up. I've enjoyed it, and there's not much really to complain about with this phone. There are phones that are doing certain things better, but I think Apple hit a home run with this one, even if it's not like a game changing product. It's just another really nice iPhone year. But I do think for those of you who do choose the 17 Pro Max, you have a strong, strong device on your hands for at least the next 3 to 5 years for sure. The iPhone folding device probably going to come out and maybe make you interested. So if you do want to get a folding device, I would recommend holding off on this if you really, really want a folding product and your iPhone is fine. But if you're going to stick with the slab style, there's no need to wait another year the iPhone 17 Pro Max already offering pretty much everything one could want in one device. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I will catch you all in the next episode, and let me know your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns down below. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.